Welcome to Ask Carnell. Today's topic is, can you have too many credit cards? Can you have too much credit? Or can you have too much going on your credit report? And I'm going to dive in and answer that question and give you guys insight on if there's a such thing as too much credit or too many credit cards. When a lender go to look at your credit report, they're looking for a few things. The first thing that a lender is looking for, the very first thing the lender is looking for is, do you have any delinquent payments? That's the first thing. The second thing they're looking for is the amount of money you owe to creditors. Okay. The first thing is, are you making on-time payments, or if you're delinquent? And the next thing that they're concerned about is the amount of money you owe. So let's dive into too much credit. There's no such thing as having too much credit. Okay. Actually, the more credit that you have, the better off you are. Okay. Now there's a caveat to this, but the more credit that you have, the better. I have 22 credit cards. I have buddies of mine that I hang out with that have, some have 30 credit cards, some have 12, some have 8. Okay. I'm going to tell you what it boils down to. You often hear people say having too many credit cards is bad. No, it's not. It's actually good. The more credit you have, the more credit that you're able to show is actually a good thing. So we talked about the caveat earlier, so I'm going to tell you what the caveat is. The caveat is how much you owe on those credit cards. So you have one individual that has 10 credit cards and they're maxed out. And you have an individual like myself that has 22 credit cards and all my balances are below 3%. All my balances below 10%. Well, let me tell you what that signifies to the lender. When the lender go look at my credit report, they're going to see a lot of credit. Okay. But they also going to see that he's able to maintain this credit. All his balances are extremely low. Okay. I've never got turned down for anything. And I probably have more credit than the average person. So just to kind of answer that question, no, you can never have too much credit, but you can have too much amount of money owed to that credit. Now, I'm not telling you guys to go out and get 22 credit cards or go get 30 accounts. You always get the amount of credit that makes sense for your finances, that makes sense for your budget. Okay. But whether you have 3 credit cards or whether you have 20 credit cards, the whole idea and what the lenders are looking for is how much you owe. They generally recommend staying 30% and under on credit cards. I recommend staying under 20%. If you stay 30% and under, you get a good credit score. Okay. If you stay 20% and under, you get a great credit score. If you're 10% and under, you have an excellent credit score. Okay. The other reason I have so many credit cards, and I recommend this to people that are disciplined only, so that way I don't have to put so much credit on one particular credit card. I can space it out. I have a credit card now that has about $27,000 on it, and I probably only owe $200. So my utilization is under 3%. That's what the lenders are always looking for. So don't get caught up in, can I have too much credit or too many credit cards or too many accounts? That's not what they're concerned about. Now, the other thing they're going to look at is it's not safe to have a lot of credit cards with high balances and a low income. Okay, that's the other thing they're going to look at. They're going to look at your income compared to the amount of debt that you have. Okay, but whether you make a lot of money or not, and I want to put this disclaimer out there, whether you make a lot of money or not, always keep your credit cards below 30%. Period. If you want to go based upon my recommendation, I recommend 20% and under. If you have a credit card with $1,000 limit on it, you should be at $200 and under. That's it. If you have a credit card with $30,000 limit on it, you should be $2,000 and under. Period. That's what I recommend. Okay. Now, when a lender go to pull your credit report, what they don't want to see, here's the other thing they don't want to see. Credit cards should be used for luxury, not to live on. Credit cards should be a situation where you don't need the credit cards. You just have it just for personal use. And for me, I tend to use my credit cards just for travel. Okay. Strictly for luxury. If they see that all the credit cards that you have, you're living on the credit cards. And how do they know you're living on your credit cards? Because the balances are extremely high. That becomes a red flag to the lender. So you want to make sure that Each credit card that you have, the balance is extremely low. That's the only thing they're concerned about. How many credit cards you have, they don't care. Okay. Now, a person that has a small amount of credit cards, but high balances on all of them, versus an individual like myself that have 22 credit cards with all my balances below 10%, then they deem me a more responsible person. And that's what they really concerned about. How responsible are you as an individual with the credit cards? If they have an individual, a person that has multiple credit cards, and they're responsible with these credit cards, they're responsible with their installment accounts, they're responsible with their car loan, and everything looks low, well, to them, it looks as if you're not living on the credit cards. So that's a good deal with a lender. That's all they want to see. They just want to make sure you're not relying on that credit card. Okay. So again, that's my answer. No, you can never have too much credit, but you can have too high balances on those credit cards. All right. I want to say this again. I'm not telling you guys to go out and get 22 credit cards. What I am saying is get the amount of credit cards that works for your budget. Okay. And if you do decide to go out and get 22 credit cards, make sure all your balances are extremely low. The national average they recommend is 30% and under. I recommend 20% under. Don't go over 20%. So when the lender go and pull your credit report, because maybe you're trying to purchase a home, maybe you're trying to purchase a car, you'll never get denied because, again, in their eyesight, you're a responsible person. So it's not about how many credit cards you got or how many credit accounts that you have. It's about the balance owed. Remember this, 35% of your credit report is on-time payments. You want to know what the next 30% is? Utilization. So 65% of your credit score is between on-time payments and utilization. What that means is utilization plays a big part of your credit score. Okay. Remember what I told you in the beginning of this video. The first thing to look for is if you got any delinquent payments. The next thing is how much you owe. Okay. 35% for on-time payments, 30% for utilization. Utilization is the amount of money you owe next to the credit limit. You have a credit card that has a $10,000 limit. You owe $9,000 on it. You 90% utilization. That's extremely poor. That scares lenders. Okay. Your credit card should only be used for personal use only. And it should be a situation where you could take it or leave it. Not that you're relying on a credit card. That's what they don't want to see. They don't want to see you relying on that credit card. Okay. If you can't discipline yourself enough to not charge up your credit cards, don't get them. Okay? Leave the credit cards alone. Thank you guys for joining me. If you have any questions or like to book me for a session, you can reach out to me at askcarnell@gmail.com or you can shoot me a DM. Thank you.